Underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Beyond.
Ryan, you want to say Beyond? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 118. To do intros right quick, since I always miss, I'm Chris Roper. Greg Miller, what's going on?
Nothing, Chris Roper.
Colin Moriarty, how's it happening?
What
I'm here. That's it.
And then on the phone, because he is sick and does not want to have his viruses invade the IGN offices, Ryan Clements is on dial-in.
Hey, what's up? It's me.
There you go. So if
we
Ryan's
miss you.
breaking up, that's why.
Hey, Ryan, you used to say, I'd say you're sick all the time. And then you go, oh, I never get sick, blah, blah, blah. Will you finally admit to being sick all the time now?
Nope.
All right. I'm going to start a calendar then, wanting to see how sick you always are.
Oh!
Ryan, they spilled some coffee. Are you okay?
Sorry, guys. That's my fault. My big knees.
Man, did the coffee get on the phone?
It did not.
No, apologies.
Okay,
But
good.
you know what? My hot
safe.
chocolate remains in the cup.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine.
No hard, no foul. Sorry, Greg.
No, it's okay. I'm cool.
Now, before I get into the rope report for this week, do you want to know why today is awesome?
Yeah, no, I totally want to know.
Because it's 1 week until the Gran Turismo 5 demo.
Oh.
That is awesome.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Cool.
All right, so let's do the rope report. Very nicely done. All right, some pretty interesting news this week, even though it's December and pretty much all of the games are out, so there's not much to talk about in terms of that, although there is one very good release this week, which we'll hit on again. But there is some pretty good news. First off, announced, I believe it was this morning, this is interesting. EA has decided that the PlayStation 3 version of Dante's Inferno is going to get an exclusive special edition called the Divine Edition.
Oh, yeah.
That runs at the same price as the standard one, so it's $59.99, and it's PS3 only, just like I said. It comes with developer commentaries, which I don't know how those work, but something like that. There's a Wayne Barlow digital art book. The soundtrack's in there, and there is a digital copy of the complete Longfellow translation of Dante's Inferno.
Ooh.
Now, the reason I find this kind of interesting, because whatever, if you want to get Dante's, then great, get the special edition, you get more crap, even if you don't ever want to see it. It's the same price.
It's for the same price.
Yeah. But it seems to me like this is the game comes out in give or take around the same time that God of War does.
Yeah.
It's first quarter release. They're going to be competing, and it seems to me like it's PS3 exclusive because of God of War.
That's a good point.
And I don't know what the point of that is, because I don't imagine people on the PS3 side saying, "Ooh, I get a special edition for this game. Now I'm going to buy it."
Well,
they pick up.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So it seems to me like if you're, if you own both the 360 and the PS3, now you say maybe, okay, I'm going to get the PS3 one, but does that matter? It's a sale. It doesn't matter to them. I assume the profits are the same.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand it very much, but
I mean, maybe it's
free
just
stuff.
to make it more enticing, so that if you have both systems, you'd buy it on PS3. That way, it does look, the numbers don't look, completely way down. You figure if you only have a 360, there's no competition for God of War.
Right.
So you're just trying to make it. So if there's people with both systems, they say, "Hey, I'll buy PS3 instead," and then kind of make the numbers not look decimated when it gets to God of War time.
That's true. Again, though, like I don't see, in the end, it's all the same amount of money to EA.
Yeah,
so
true.
Whatever. But anyway,
What do you think of that game? Dante's Inferno.
The demo, or I haven't played the demo that's coming out today.
Yeah.
But the stuff that I had played, I don't know, a few months ago was really fun.
Yeah, I got to see it. I just got back from New York. Everybody, I told people I was going on a trip. Ran into some fans. Good work. But I got to see it there for the first time, really in motion. To get down and sit down and watch it in action. There are boobs in it, Colin. Heads
okay,
up.
cool.
Yeah. So it actually looked like fun. It looked like it would be a good time.
Yep. It seems very well produced. Like the production quality is very high. Speaking of EA, John Riccitiello, the headmaster over there at Hogwarts of EA.
Hogwarts, yeah.
They do make the Harry Potter games. Anyway, he was speaking at what I believe is called the Global Media Conference yesterday. And he was talking about console innovation and all these other sorts of things, and mentioned that the Xbox 360 motion controller thing is called the Natal. And then said that the PS3 one is called the Gem. He said, with Natal on the 360 and Gem on the PS3 is the give or take the way he put it.
Did he immediately freak out? Or did he not even notice?
He didn't pay attention. We contacted Sony. They're saying they're not making an announcement on the name yet. It's possible. My initial reaction before I actually heard the quote was that, maybe he was just talking about the top part of the controller. Maybe he called the Gem as you have the D-pad and all that kind of stuff. But when you hear it, it just sounds like he says this thing is called the Gem.
I see.
So maybe that's what it is, but there's no announcement of that.
What do we think about if that was the name? Is Gem a good name?
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's awful.
No, I don't like it.
I mean, I think just calling it the motion controller is perfectly fine. It explains what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, I believe this morning, Firmware 3.15 for the PS3 came out, and it's out now anyway. And it adds one kind of cool new thing is that I haven't tried this because I just got it right before we walked in the show, but it apparently gives you a new way to transfer content between systems. So you can plug systems together via Ethernet, and then if you can trade move all of your data over if you get a new PS3 or whatever, which is cool. But the big thing to most people is that, if you care about this sort of thing, is that the PS3 can now natively play the minis that are available on the PSP.
I want to see how they get put on the screen. Yeah. Are they going to be blown up all the way and look terrible, or are they going to be small?
That's the thing is I haven't tried it yet because, again, I was right before the show.
I'm downloading mine too.
Yeah, but it is cool, though. So if you buy it on the PSP, obviously it'll work on the, your same download works on the PS3. So
buy Blast off.
Yeah. There you go. Yakuza 3.
Oh,
announced to be
God, Chris Roper.
Okay, now, are you allowed to talk about the game? Oh, yeah, you did.
I already wrote my preview.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you just saw the game in New York.
I did. Well, if you remember, earlier, the beginning of about a year ago, I downloaded the Japanese demo and played that.
Right.
And didn't understand what the hell was happening, but it looked cool. Then I went to TGS and saw a Yakuza 4 trailer and preview, and it blew my mind because it was so amazing, the moves they were doing and the amount. It's kind of like a GTA almost. You can just roam around and get side missions, all these side quests, and then awesome-looking cutscenes and go inside. It's the same way with Yakuza 3, getting to play it. It's it doesn't look as good as Yakuza 4, obviously, because there's another year of development there. Whereas this one, it looked awesome, same kind of thing. It looks like it's gonna have a great story. Roam around Japan, do all this crazy stuff, buy ramen, go in, play video games, playing shoot 'em up, playing.
It's big. It's big on side mission stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's big on making a world you live in.
Yeah, and as opposed to something like, if you haven't played it before, as opposed to something like Grand Theft Auto, where you do a side mission where it's the same sort of missions that you do in the normal stuff. The side missions in Yakuza are like going to a batting cage or going and doing things that are
go
way
on a
different.
Date, play karaoke.
Things that are way different than the main game. Now, to kind of explain why you've seen 3 and 4 is that the U.S. releases of these games are always delayed significantly from Japan. Basically, they come out in Japan, they get a lot of hype, and then they say, hey, okay, we will eventually release it in the U.S., and then there it is. It comes out a year, whatever, later. So Yakuza 3 is finally coming out in the U.S. It's been officially announced for March of 2010.
Right around the corner. Super close.
Stupidest goddamn move of all time.
Yeah? You think just
the
too
PS3,
fat, too full?
The PS3 in March is getting God of War 3. It's getting Final Fantasy 13 on March 9th.
Yeah.
Those two releases are huge.
Doesn't matter. Yakuza 3 will beat them all.
I don't know. We'll see. I think it's really stupid.
They should. I'm more excited that it's not being delayed. It's not. You figure. Basically, that's a year behind Japan. That came out for them, I believe, in February. I want to say maybe March, which may. I'm happy they announced it and it's coming out. I don't want them to announce it and then see it in November.
The problem is it's going to get buried. I think that should be an E3 release. Because the hardcore people that aren't paying attention, they don't need to be sold by TV ads and stuff like that. They're going to buy it anyway. But and then at E3 there won't be any other games. You assume, so they'll have the money to do it. Right now, you say, I go into March. For me, the first game I'm buying is God of War 3.
Yeah.
If I was a Final Fantasy fan, that would be the second game I'd get. Maybe vice versa. And then the third one might be Yakuza if I haven't already gotten caught up on all the other stuff coming out around that time.
Yeah.
So
I don't think there's going to be a big ad campaign behind it. You figure they're not. I think it's going to be a real word of mouth game, I believe, because you figure they're not change. It's just Japanese voices with English text over it,
which is
going to turn a lot of people off. Oh yeah, which is don't get me wrong, that's the way it should be done. But I think it's going to come out and it'll appeal to those hardcore fans who get it. I think you'll see reviews popping. The first one, in Japan when it was originally released, it got amazing scores. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
I imagine if they don't screw stuff up, it'll be along those lines here because the game is basically the same. You're not accepting English. So I think it'll be a word of mouth spread. So I don't know if there's as much day one competition kind of thing.
Right. More news is that, speaking of Q1, White Knight Chronicles is being a U.S. North American release date of February 2nd. So that's good. We all expected that.
Right before Heavy Rain, though.
Heavy Rain.
Dead Space 2 is official.
Excellent.
It's been kind of mentioned before, everybody, kind of knows.
They put a window on that one?
But now they're saying, hey, we are making the game for next year, so great.
Oh, so good. First one's so good.
Yeah.
This is very good news for everyone in this room, at least, not Ryan. But Infamous has sold over 1 million copies.
Yay! Game of the year.
What that means, I don't care if it sells 7 billion or whatever, because the same game's the same to me. But 1 million copies means that it's very likely we're going to get a sequel. Now, sales are warranted. Infamous 2 is, bet on it. So
I bet it'll be the same kind of deal as Uncharted, where a lot of people miss the first game,
and then
if
they go
this
and play
2's
the
going to
second
come out,
one.
it'll be polished, it'll be better on everything they already had.
Yeah.
Everyone will want to get it.
I can't wait, man.
Now, in the bad news, if you wanted to buy Max Payne 3, you have to wait a little bit longer because that is now delayed into Take-Two's fourth quarter of 2010, which, fiscal things never align, which is August through September of 2010.
Will this be the next Duke Nukem Forever?
No.
It's another game
it's going
that's
to actually
been kicked
come
around
out.
for quite some time.
It will actually come out. The last piece of news
Does
I'll
anyone
mention.
care about that game, though?
I do. I like the first
Yeah.
two.
I love the first two games. I think they're great.
Okay.
So, and it's,
Shut your face, Clements.
and it's got the Rockstar name on it, so it's going to sell well.
I heard that.
No, you didn't.
The last piece of news that I'll mention this week is that Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker,
Dun, 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 dun.
North America, May 25th.
Nice.
Bam! And I believe it's in March in Japan. Is that correct?
I've
Something
been
like
out
that.
of the loop.
Yeah,
I actually thought it was in March in America, but
I think it's
didn't read the
March in
article,
Japan, but in America, it is May 25th, 2010.
That's a lot of good news right there.
It is a lot of good news. There it is. And again, Gran Turismo 5 demo next Thursday.
That is great news, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Greg, there's all these games coming out in the first quarter of next
Yeah,
year,
big
up through
first
May,
quarter.
and all of these great releases. But, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, that's great. I can play all these awesome games in 3, 4, 5 months, 2 months even in some cases, like Wetland Chronicles. But, if I happen to be at Best Buy or GameStop today, how will I know what kind of games I can purchase to play now?
Okay, that's easy. Everybody, it's the official. Oh, okay. Hey, Ryan, there's a recording problem. Hold on. All right, everybody, I've muted Ryan's phone. Now I'm going to tap mute on and off just to screw with him to make him think something's really wrong. All right, we're ready? All right.
Yeah.
The official IGN list of upcoming PlayStation software on all 3 platforms by the IGN editors. It's not a huge week right now, but there is stuff coming. We have PlayStation 3 get Saboteur. Saboteur, that's going to be a good one. And then PlayStation Portable and the PlayStation 2 get nothing at all. Boo. So, yeah. What do we got on the network? Ryan, what do we got on the network?
Ryan, are you there? We may have lost him.
What?
Ryan Clements, are you still on the phone?
You scared him off.
Come in, Ryan.
He's dead.
All right.
All right, I got the list here. I printed it out.
Should
I'll
we
just read
recall
it.
him?
Well, okay. Well, you call him, and then I will, if there's redial or something.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, and I'll start reading it.
Hold on. I got it. Yeah, keep going.
So coming out today, games are Revenge of the Wounded Dragons, Frogger Returns, and, fantastically, the awesome PixelJunk Shooter.
Nice.
I reviewed the game yesterday, 9.1. That game is awesome. Definitely buy that.
For sure.
8 PSP games are hitting the thing, including Karulin, Coded Arms, Silent Hill Origins, a bunch of other junk.
screwed this one up good, Rubber.
Did you?
Add new entry. No. How do I cancel?
Minis. We get Stand-O Food
There we go.
and Battle Poker.
I want to review Stand of Food.
All right.
Is it a game I can review?
Why not? The name kind of makes it. There are demos for Tapatoy, Dante's Inferno, as I mentioned before, Mushroom Wars, and then other stuff is free Infamous, Gigawatt Blades, High Velocity Bowling Junk, like more balls.
Done?
Hey, buddy.
3 Pain themes and Modern Warfare 2 theme. Ryan, are you there?
What happened there?
I'm here.
What happened to you, Ryan?
You said there was a recording problem. I thought I got disconnected.
Oh, no, you were fine. We were just fixing the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Hey, I already went through the PSN release of the week, so you don't have to actually read that part. But do you have any comments for what's
rolling
happening? How are
All
you?
right, keep going.
All right, great. Pick of the week for me clearly is PixelJunk Shooter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't played as much as you have, but I'm pretty excited for it. So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
I played it with Ryan the other day. Ryan, what did you think of the 2-player mode?
Hold on, you guys are starting to cut in and out. I might have to. I don't know what's happening.
Uh-oh.
How are we now?
Is the actual? Can you guys check the phone connection, the actual cord on that?
Well, the
speakerphone?
plug is cut in half, so that might be the problem. Hey, Ryan, what did you think of PixelJunk Shooter when we played 2-player the other day?
I mean, even though I only got to play it for like 15 minutes,
can't
it
hear
was
us
still
right now,
totally
so it's fine.
rad. I'm very excited to download and play the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, so listeners, he's muted right now. He doesn't know he's been muted. This is great. Why don't we do this every show?
I don't know. Let's just leave him muted for a while.
Now I can't hear you guys
No,
at all.
okay.
Huh. But he might just
Wait, you can't hear us?
Well, I didn't hear anything after I was done speaking.
All
Oh,
right.
I mean, we're talking about how good Shooter is.
We gave away the secret of the universe.
Pick of the week!
Pick of the week, PixelJunk Shooter.
PixelJunk Shooter, everybody.
9.1, get it?
9.1?
There it is. What do we
Bill?
got next in the show? Trophy tips.
Just the tip.
PixelJunk's trophy's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not rewarding. What else do we have for trophy tips?
I have a few warnings. I have a few trophy warnings.
Trophy warnings with Colin Moriarty.
The first warning I want to give you guys is Call of Duty Classic is out on PSN, and it's a great game, but the difficulty trophies don't stack, so you have to beat the game on normal and elite or whatever and veteran to get all of those trophies, which sucks.
Oh,
So you
really?
have to
So if
beat
you
it
went to the
3 or 4
highest one,
times.
it doesn't go.
It doesn't work like that. I hadn't beaten the game yet, but I went to PS3trophies.org, which is a cool little place where they have trophy guides, and they were talking about that. And the other thing that I didn't know is that I played Rogue Warrior. I don't know why I did that, but I played Rogue Warrior. I beat it on the hardest difficulty, and I only got the trophy for the hardest difficulty. So for
that's a bunch
I was
of
gonna
junk.
play that too.
so for some reason you play that abysmal game.
Yeah.
Don't even bother.
But it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
It gives away a bunch in the beginning too, right? Like trophies.
You get
I
some
saw
almost
Jeff get a whole bunch.
you get some
you get a
right away.
bunch of
I might do
bronzes.
that for a little bit.
But I even tried. I actually wanted to get the platinum on that, but I tried to go online to play, but no one was online, obviously.
Well, you and I should play it then.
Yeah, we can do that. And also, Jurassic the Hunted, if you guys are interested in bad shooters,
I'm doing it.
That's I got 87% on that. I'm missing a couple that I'm probably not going to get.
Oh, whatever. You'll get them. You're Colin Moriarty.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I went to New York, did an IGN meet and greet, met some cool fans.
Cool.
One of them had IM'd me before about this. And I use it all the time, but I never talk about it on the show. But he wants me to talk about it, not because it's his application, which is what I was concerned about, but more just to get the word out about it. There's a PlayStation 3 trophy app on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Did you use it?
No.
I have it. It's not perfect, but it's on there right now. It's free. You should get it if you have an iPhone or an iPod Touch. You just put in PlayStation trophies, I believe, or whatever. I found it when it first came out. It's been updated a bunch of times since then. It's good.
Cool.
Good.
All right.
Now, normally we would do topic of the week, which I'm going to delay here and kind of reverse with reader mail.
Unmuting.
Okay. So let's do some reader mail first, and when we come back to topic of the week, I'll explain why. Basically, we want more time for things to come in. But getting on with the first question, Robert writes in and he says, do you appreciate a game that has unique ideas with some iffy execution, or a polished game that follows all the same well-traveled roads? Obviously, it's better to have kind of both happen, maybe something like Okami. But, if you have to pick one or the other, uniqueness or execution?
Execution.
Yeah, I would say execution. If it's executed really, really well, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I agree. My recent example of this, and I know some people like the game, but Nobi Nobi Boy, I hated that thing. I thought it was not good. It was definitely very unique.
Yeah.
But it didn't work in the same way that Katamari did, where that was a completely unique game and it was done very well.
Yeah.
It still has problems to this day, but
the same problem they had when they launched.
Right, but there were few enough problems that you could totally overlook them. If you have a game that has that is not polished very well, but it's unique, it's just not going to work, and then nobody's going to bother to say, hey, this was a good idea, let's move on and do something better with it. So polish is better than than uniqueness, but you got to have some new stuff in there every once in a while.
Ryan, thoughts? What do you like better? Forget it. Move on. Hold on.
All right. Dom OSX writes in, and he says that I have referenced Kevin Smith a few times, a couple of movies, and he was a huge fan. He's wondering what my favorite Kevin Smith movie is. Guess everybody can chime in. For me, it's probably Mallrats.
Yeah, Mallrats.
Yeah, I would say Mallrats too, although I do have a soft spot for Chasing Amy. I know a lot of people don't.
That is Dom OSX's favorite.
Yeah,
That's a really
I think
good
Chasing Amy's hilarious.
That's
Too.
a
I
really
haven't seen that in a long time, so I got to watch it again. But
they're all pretty good.
Jeebus Hong writes in, and he says, basically he's saying people are not really developing many or any worthwhile games for the PS2 anymore, which is very agreed.
Yeah.
There's, like one a year maybe now.
SmackDown wasn't that bad this year.
Yeah. I mean,
that's just
there are some.
No, I know. I'm just tossing out ones that aren't garbage.
Right.
Because there are a ton of garbage.
But all the ones that at least this year that I can think of, or most of them anyway, an RPG or two aside, are just ports.
Uh-huh.
So. But anyway, so he's wondering why Sony finds it still necessary to sell PS2s in stores. Are they worried about PS3 numbers? Whatever.
That's you.
The deal is that the PS2 is still selling.
Yeah, exactly.
It sells 100 and whatever thousand a week. People are still buying it.
Yeah.
There are a ton of awesome greatest hits games that are available for it. I mean, the greatest hits library for the PS2, if you only played those games, you would have an amazing time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of the best games ever are in that lineup. So, if people go to the store and they say, hey, I didn't play Shadow of the Colossus when it was out, and I don't have a backwards compatible PS3, I'm going to buy a PS2 for it,
Yeah.
and pick up some old games. So, but the thing is, it's still selling.
Yeah, it still sells, and I mean, in my opinion, with the exception of the NES and the SNES, PS2 easily has the best catalog of games. So, There's just so much good stuff to play. I'm actually kind of curious if it really is like who really is buying the PS2 at like $100,000 or a little more than $100,000 a month. Probably some PS3 owners, but like also maybe some just people that aren't really into hardcore gaming, want something cheap to play. They see a bunch of $20 games.
Cheap DVD player.
Yeah, cheap DVD player, of course. Yeah, so they'll keep selling it until it stops selling.
Yep. Justin writes in and he says he has a question. I think this is an interesting one. He has a question about dev kits on the PS3 and other systems in general. Why do companies like Sony charge such a huge amount of money for them? If it seems like they would want more developers, they would make them cheap. Every penny that a development company has to spend on dev kits is a penny not spent on developing the game. He understands why they don't want any fall off the street making, but they couldn't have an approval process, whatever. Now, two parts of this. Number one, if you get approved by Sony, you can't just go walk into a store, walk into Sony headquarters and buy this thing. But if you get approved by Sony to develop at least PSN games, and I assume this would be kind of the same for retail, although it might be a little bit different, but at least for PSN stuff, the last time that I had heard, and this was GDC from like two years ago, I think, year and a half, the systems were less than $2,000. They were like $1,500 or something. But if you're going to spend, a couple thousand hours, man hours, whatever, making a game, that's not very much money. It's not an investment, really. So that's not that bad. If you're talking about the early stuff where, you get in and you get the giant thing and you can run all kinds of stuff, because that just basically plays a game that you put on to it, right? But if you want, like, the full dev kit that lets you, go in and tweak a bunch of stuff, whatever, and those cost $10,000 or whatever they do. I don't know what the actual number is, but it's something like that. And it's true for everybody. It seems like... so Sony spends a lot of money developing not only the hardware, which they're trying to recoup through software, licensing and all that kind of stuff, but also the development teams that make all the libraries that go for it have to be supported in some fashion. And it's like anything else that you don't sell many of, they have to be expensive. If I was buying a car every month, they could cost $500, but I'm only buying a car every 5 years or whatever, so it's got to cost $20,000, right? So, same sort of thing. If you're only going to sell, say, 10,000 or 50,000 development systems, they can't be $100, or $500. They've got to be more to support the company. And as well, if somebody's making a game these days, they are going to be spending $10+ million on it. So spending $10,000 a piece on, let's say, 20 systems is not that much when you look at the entire thing.
Yeah.
So
the way I kind of see it is also I'm not sure, because he says doesn't Sony want more developers or whatever. I don't think they do. I think they want quality developers that have venture capital, and if you have venture capital, you're going to have enough money to buy this $10,000. Because if you're just some guy on the street that thinks you can make a PSN game, they're not really interested in you. And let's not forget about the Net Yaroze, which I know a lot of younger people are not going to remember, but that was the development PlayStation, the original PlayStation that was available to anyone. You could buy it for like $800. Mm-hmm. But I think that Mark Ryan mentioned it sometimes. I really think only one game of like any note came out of releasing Net Yarozes cheap to people. Yeah. So I'm not sure that even if you made PS3 development kits cheaper, that it would really net you any more games that would be worthwhile anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And remember too that if you buy that kit, it works on more than one game. So you say, okay, let's spend $500,000 buying all these kits. It's not just for that one game. You have to do it again for the next one. It's your studio is making the same investment that you would in desks and chairs and computers and all that kind of stuff, but you're buying these things, and they last you, however long the generation is. So, anywho, Black Mantle says, when is the right time for a game company to pull the plug on a franchise?
When it doesn't sell.
It's costing.
That's the business answer, right? You would hope when it burns out and nobody
you would
cares
hope that
anymore.
At this point,
Spyro, stop making Spyro.
Spyro games, Dynasty Warriors, or do something new with that thing.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Oh! Damn, son. Ryan, are you still on the phone?
Oh, come on, man.
There it is. But anyway, when the game, if it's not selling anymore, obviously for financial reasons you pull it. But number two is if you are just running your company's name.
Number two.
Yeah. If you're running, and D, if you're running your company's name into the ground by releasing crap, even if enough people are buying it to warrant doing, if you care, then you're not going to release it.
Yeah.
Or you should pull the plug. But Tony writes in, and he says, basically he's buying a bunch of junk. He's going to make the switch to Blu-ray eventually. He wants to know about cables.
Uh-huh.
He was saying that he was noticing a huge difference for these, for component cables specifically, saying GE brand ones were $11. The Sony first-party ones were $25. Monster cables were $50.
Never buy Monster cables.
Yeah, never buy that. All of them were 6 feet long. He knows that you can get some on eBay for $4.50, give or take. He's wondering if there's any difference in quality from a $50 cable. You got his PS3's HDMI cable. Although he said he's going to make a switch to. Oh, I guess his friend's going to switch to Blu-ray. Anyway, he got his PS3 HDMI cable for $5 or something off eBay. First off, monoprice.com, people. Yeah. That monoprice.com is your friend. Secondly, so with HDMI, I don't know if this is as big of a deal with that, but with component cables, you can find pieces of junk cables that are not shielded well, and if your cables are running through a bunch of other stuff, you will get noise in the picture. However, that's a pretty bad case scenario, and you have to be buying, something that your brother made in the basement. If you go and you buy any sort of, semi-reasonably name brand stuff, or if you order something from Monoprice that's proven to be great, you're going to get the same quality from, $5 or $10 cable as you are from the Monster stuff. The Monster cable is a giant waste of money.
Yeah, and
do not buy their products.
They're an evil corporation too.
Yeah.
They sue any company that has Monster in it, claiming that they own the right to the word Monster.
You know what's awesome is Engadget.com, probably my favorite website on the internet. They the other day had a story on some company is making an HDMI cable. It's 1 meter, I think. It's $1,000.
That's how good your picture's gonna look.
It has something to do with they called them like DNA wound and $1,000. $1,000 for 3 feet of cable.
You want your picture to look good, don't you?
Yeah. Anyway, but no, just go to Monoprice and don't buy Monster is basically the end of the thing.
Yeah.
If you want to make sure it's going to look fine, and you think and you're worried you're $5, whatever, the Sony ones are probably the most expensive ones I would ever buy. But, anyway. Hughes81 says, do you think 3D gaming will really catch on, meaning 3D visuals popping out of the screen? Same thing with movies. I would incorporate this into this with like Avatar and stuff like that. And apparently, sometime around now, the Blu-ray Consortium is supposed to announce the, finalized 3D, setup, basically. Hey, follow these guidelines. The 3D guidelines for Blu-ray movies. Anyway, he's saying, do you think it will really catch on, or is it just another gimmick fad like motion controls?
I hope it's another fad.
Yeah, me too.
Like the original 3D. Yeah.
I don't want to play games like that.
Goggles on and do all this crap.
Yeah, it's dumb.
For me, I think, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to seeing Avatar in the theater because I think the 3 is going to be great. The Terminator 3D or whatever that's at Universal Studios, I think it was awesome, at least when I saw it a decade ago. And it worked really well. Yeah, it worked really well. So I'm interested in seeing it when it's done right, but if, they start making
everything
in 3D, it's going to look bad.
G-Force, the cartoon game, didn't need to be in 3D.
Yeah, so I don't know. I hope it's used properly and used well, and not you just do it just because it can't be done.
I want to sit down and play. I don't want to sit down and get headsets on and then try. It never looks exactly right. I always got to move around. You're off center. I was watching Wipeout off center or whatever at like E3 and getting a headache. I was like,
Right.
I think core gamers are kind of resistant to most change too. I think, like for instance, we see with the Wii was interesting for a while, but no one really cares about it anymore. And you have to wonder if Natal and quote unquote Gem are gonna like kind of miss the boat and like anyone's even gonna care, because I think people really just want to play games with a controller. I really believe that.
Yeah. Moving on here because we're going to be running short on time soon. Raffle Dan writes in and he says he's going to get a PS3 for Christmas. He's going to get Uncharted 2.
Infamous.
Does he? Okay, well, fine. Yeah, also get Infamous.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Do we think that he would also need to play Uncharted 1 to know what the hell's going on with Uncharted 2?
No. I mean, he'll miss the subcontext of Nate and Elena's relationship, and that's about it.
And Sully, too, yeah.
Right.
Well, but I think Sully's easy enough to drop in and be like, oh, this guy is his best friend. Done. All right, cool.
Yeah.
They're friends.
If you understand that and you know that Elena was they dated the woman from the first, then you're fine.
The one thing, though, is the great thing about Drake's Fortune is playing Drake's Fortune and then playing Among Thieves is like Drake's Fortune looks so good, and then you're amazed about how much better Among Thieves looks.
Yeah.
So that's a cool little contrast you might want to look into.
I would play Uncharted 1 anyway because it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, great game.
So,
yeah, it is.
Yes, I would play it. And then the last piece of mail that I have here before we move on to the next thing, which is sort of related. Sarcophagus Williams writes in.
Awesome.
Greg.
Yeah.
Sarcophagus here was at Zany's in Chicago on Saturday night.
Okay.
And he wants to know if he saw you there.
No, you did not. I was not at Zany's on Saturday night.
No.
I was downtown, though. I was staying in a condo next to the Hancock building. So
Yep.
there you go. Living the high life.
Nice. Cool.
There it is.
That's all.
All right, now we move on to topic of the week. So
topic of the week.
I went over to right before the show started. I said, "Greg, do you have any good ideas for any topics?" He said, "No," and I said, "All right, here's what we're gonna do."
This is usually how it goes on Thursday.
Right now it's December. There's not really much going on here. So what I did was I Twitter/Facebooked and I said, "Send us your topics." If you remember, a long shows ago, we did the thing where we got a bunch of topic ideas and then cut them up into little slips of paper, put them in the hat. We all drew them. We talked about it for 2 minutes. We're going to do the same sort of thing, except instead of cutting it up, because we didn't have enough time to do that.
It's random enough. It's random enough.
We're going to go down the list in order. We'll just go around the room.
While Roper does this, everyone, remember, if you want to send a real question to Podcast Beyond, you can send it at beyond@ign.com. That's also where you can send your song submissions for the end of the show.
Correct.
All right.
Who wants to go? Colin, I will let you choose who starts first.
Diddy Mo! Out of all?
Yeah, who's going to start first?
Roper, obviously you have to start.
Okay, I will start. The first question here comes from, and we're going to do 1 minute at a time for this one.
Okay.
Last time we did 2, we'll do 1 minute at a time.
One person talks?
One person, so
Gotcha.
only I comment on this one.
This is interesting.
First one comes, I'm going to start with Twitter questions here, and then I'll change over to Facebook in a couple minutes. We did Sakamori X says, can we get some discussion on the upcoming comic store/service? Things like who's on board, pricing, release schedules, all that kind of stuff. I don't know that. Greg, you can say if
no,
you know.
I can't.
If you know
Your minute started right now.
Well, mate, do you know who's on board though?
Yeah, Marvel. That's all they've announced.
Okay, so there you go for that part. As far as being able to read the stuff on there, I think it's really cool because you have things like the Kindle, and you have the Barnes and Noble Nook, and you have all these things for regular story textbooks or whatever you want to call them, novels. So having the graphic novels on there, having comic books is kind of the way to go. The screen on the PSP, I don't really read comics very much, but I don't know that it's formatted very well for it. You don't get the one whole page layout like you would want to have in a comic. You can't kind of look at everything at once, and so I think that's a little bit kind of messed up. But I do appreciate that it's coming on there, and it makes it. One thing is that if I were to go into a comic store and I said, "Hey, I want to start reading a comic or two," I would be so completely overwhelmed that I have no idea where to start. Mm-hmm. So maybe putting it on a format like this, where you could go in and see people's ratings, or go in and kind of get suggestions and say, "Okay, I can check this out." It might make it easier for you to find something rather than having to go on forums. Say, "I'm a new guy. What are some good suggestions?" There you go. There's my minute. So now we'll go clockwise. So Colin, for you.
Diddy Mo!
Oriole Killer, nice. not the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay. Real quick, this guy came to the meet and greet. Hey,
Oriole. Oh, there he goes. He says, renting games through PSN. Colin, go.
Diddy Mo! I mean, it's a cool idea. I like the idea. I really like the idea, especially because of the robust PlayStation and PlayStation 2 catalog. But I'm not entirely sure that Sony really could do much more than release first-party games by rental without having all the other companies on board. And obviously, they're going to make more money by selling their games. So, we'll see if they put trophies on them. See, this is my theory, and I know we talk about trophies a lot, and it's kind of stupid.
We love them,
but I'm serious. If they just took the time to manipulate the game, like the game code really briefly, to put some trophies, just 5-10 trophies on some of these PlayStation 2 games, man, people would rent them if they were available like this, because people are obsessed with trophies, just like they are with achievements. Mm-hmm. So I think the game rental is cool. I think renting games is kind of like 1995 though at this point. Yeah. So there you go.
All right.
Clements just chimes in with a laugh every so often.
Nilik wrote in, I'm not going to erase your thing. He says, where should we submit these questions? So we're going to skip that one. Bug42, Greg, your turn. He says, has Greg submitted his picture to the Portillo's restaurant to be hanged up with the other 2-bit celebrities?
I have not yet. I forgot that I even talked about this. You haven't heard this plan yet, Colin? At my favorite restaurant in the world, Portillo's restaurant. It's a local chain out in Chicago. There's a couple in LA, one in Indiana. When you go to check out, you're waiting for your food, they have all these signed autographed pictures from Chicago celebrities. Jim Belushi, that guy from Will and Grace, Christopher Knight's there now, stuff like that. I'm gonna take the picture of me and Dan Aykroyd from when I met him dressed as a Ghostbuster, and I'm gonna sign that. And there's 32 restaurants. I'm gonna send them 32 copies of the photo so they can put it up. I have not done it yet because I actually said this last week and then immediately flew to Chicago and then flew to New York, and now I'm back for a while, so I will get that plan in action.
Cool.
There we go. Ryan, your turn. Invalid X writes in and he says, how about holiday gift ideas?
Holiday gift ideas. Ah, man, that's a tough one because I don't know who he's buying for. Let's see. Well, if the person that you're buying for doesn't yet own a system, systems are fairly cheap now, especially with all of them receiving price cuts in the recent past. And if they already do own a system, either buy some games, or if they are not interested in games, buy a bunch of decorative candles, because you can't go wrong with decorative candles.
No, you can't.
How long was that?
You got about 30 seconds if you want to hurry it up.
All right, well...
What game?
You don't have to take the full minute.
Oh, then I'm done.
All right. The next one, which I'm taking, comes from Speedy Desiato. And he says, what is your favorite story in a PlayStation game? I'm going to assume the PlayStation 1 through 3. Why and what do you think is the best way of getting a story across? My favorite story, man. That's a very tough question. If I include, well, I don't know. I really love the way that Shadow of the Colossus ends. Like, there's not a whole lot of story going up to that part, but I love the way that it ends. So, I don't know. I mean, I may just say that, but the best way to get a story across, for me, is the way that Half-Life 2 does it. And Half-Life 1, for that example, is you're in the game, you are directly interacting with people, it happens in front of you, you can choose to interact with them or not. Obviously, that's different storytelling from something like Metal Gear, whatever you get cutscenes, but I love being in the action and seeing it happen in front of me and being able to interact with things as they're going on and having it feel like I'm playing instead of just watching a cutscene. But I understand that you can do a lot more story-wise with something like Metal Gear Solid, where you're showing all the cutscenes, but I happen to like the you're in the game type moment, so. Colin, this one says, Enzo de Gregorio says, please talk about the games of 2009 that are must-buys for PS3 owners.
2009 are must-buys? I mean, I think we can all agree that Infamous and Uncharted 2 are really the two must-buy games. Do you know what though? I have to say, a lot of PlayStation owners seem to have overlooked a PSN game that I think is PSN Game of the Year, which is Shatter.
Shatter is good.
People must go check out that game. It's like $7 or $8. It's excellent. I think it's one of my favorite games of the year, no doubt. With the exception of Shadow Complex on Xbox, probably the best downloadable game of the year.
But you have not yet played PixelJunk Shooter.
No, I haven't played PixelJunk Shooter yet, so that's true. So maybe that'll change. But as far as the lost art of video game music, which I feel is becoming more and more lost, Shatter is awesome in that respect. So they're going to want to check out that game. Some other God of War Collection obviously is awesome. I've been playing through God of War Collection. I only have experience with the first God of War. I never played God of War 2. I'm amazed about how good God of War still looks compared to. So I know they did some polish to it and stuff like that, but that game looks amazing. It really does. So I would check out that game. What else really came out this year that was of any consequence? Yeah, Killzone came out in January. That's true. That's another great game. Dragon Age is cool if you're a nerd. Batman Arkham Asylum, great game. So there were some good. I honestly think 2009 was kind of weak, but there are some excellent games out there. And I would start with Infamous and Uncharted.
Yeah. Greg, moving on to you. What happened, Ryan?
I was just going to say, I know it's not a PS3 game.
It's also not your turn.
Final Fantasy, best game ever.
All right, it's also not your turn. Greg. Evo Roscoe, something like that, says, do you think that GEM is a good name for the PlayStation motion controller? And if not, what would you call it?
No, I'd stick with Chris Roper's motion controller. Why give it a goofy name? I mean, I guess, I don't know. This is clearly them reaching for casual market as usual, right? All this, the Wii bleed over continues. Yeah. We need to try to sell a system to everyone. And again, not only is my mom never going to buy a PS3 and want to play something on it, she would be even more confused if she saw me using it, a motion controller in a commercial, and then went to the store and it was named GEM. And is that a game? Is that its own thing? Is that a controller? I mean, you called it the DualShock controller. You know what I mean? It's a DualShock. People know what it is. It should be called the motion controller. It's not a game, so it doesn't need a fancy name.
Yeah.
That's my answer to that. Call it the motion controller.
Well said. Ryan, we will let you do the last one on Twitter before I move over to Facebook here. The question comes from Matt LaRoche, and he says, what do you think of the industry's fix-it-later rather than now attitude, like firmware updates, and why not take more time to get it right?
Excellent question, Matt. Well, here's what I think. I am totally fine with using downloadable means of, gathering content with grabbing a patch for something or providing users with more levels or characters later on. That's really fine with me, only because I have, easy access to online and internet. So I don't really care, but I can understand why people that either just don't readily have access to internet, maybe don't have a good connection, would be discouraged by that because they just want to buy the disc and walk away and be done with it. So I would prefer that a developer come up with a product, develop, and then put it out that's totally complete, and it doesn't have, any bugs, at least, major ones. And if they want to come up with a little downloadable pack that's either for free or a small cost, that's probably fine. But I'll have to agree with a lot of gamers who don't like when a game is just straight up either broken or has serious problems, and then they patch it later. That does seem pretty sloppy. So I hope that that's not a trend that continues to grow as we move along.
There it is. It looks like our connection in this room is terrible.
Oh no,
we're in the dark void here. But I don't know that I'm seeing many people writing in from Facebook.
The old
closet. Oh, okay. Well, that explains why. For whatever reason, my Twitter update did not get transferred over to it. So something's broken. Anyway, so we'll do one more round of Twitter questions here. Let me see. Facebook people, sorry.
Sorry, Facebook people.
Anyway, let's see. Inaba Kun writes in. He says, He just had a comment. Let's see. Here we go. Ooh. Okay, Stuart21 writes in. This is kind of similar to what he was Colin was talking about with rental games. Stuart21 says, used game sales, good or bad? What will it take to make PSP Go, and PSN games discounted for not being physical media for Steam-like models? Kind of two different questions here. But in terms of used game sales, I don't like them at all. For the main purpose that, I'm fine with them to find old stuff you can't buy new anymore. But I think we've touched on this before. New games, I think you should buy them new, especially if you're going to GameStop. You're only getting a $5 discount on a $60 game. It's less than a 10% savings. And you're cutting out developer entirely. They're not getting any money from you. Granted, you're also giving it to the publisher, so if you hate Activision or EA or whatever, but you're also not giving it to the studio that made the game originally. And that
affects sales.
Yeah, it affects sales. If you went and 1 million people had rented or bought Infamous used rather than bought it new, we wouldn't be seeing Infamous 2. So I don't like that. In terms of the downloadable stuff, I got 15 seconds to be discounted. Not anytime soon, because then otherwise, I don't know. Not anytime soon. I think that's going to be the same. You're paying for the game. They're going to say, hey, we're going to get your $60 out of you, so that's what we're going to do it.
I think what it takes is
not
time.
Counting PSN games, something like that. But yeah. Colin here. He says, here we go. Greg, do a little music while I find one here.
Clements
Here we go.
gets sick all the time.
Yep. Colin, Paul Walt says, what should Sony do to one-up Microsoft's social media implementation on the consoles? How can they do it better? How can they do better than Microsoft?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't played around with Microsoft's implementation of any of these like social networking tools, but I think it's kind of all overstated in a way. Yeah, like Facebook's fun, Twitter's fun, but do we really care that we can do them on our consoles or whatever? And as we see with something like Facebook on PS3, it's really dumb. Like it would be better if it didn't exist at all on PlayStation, as opposed to when I go on my newsfeed on Facebook, I have to look at friggin' 1 million trophies and I even found out that even though I turned it off on my PS3 at home, I didn't turn it off here, so I was getting friggin' Dragon Age trophy feeds to all these people that don't care. I would like to see. I think what I liked was Uncharted 2, even though I didn't use it, Uncharted 2's Twitter functionality or whatever. I think that's kind of like a step in the right direction, and they can do more things like that with like very game-specific things. But in the end, I don't think it's really that important. Yeah, we want to go on consoles to play games, download demos, and maybe watch some movies and use Netflix and stuff. I don't think it's that important.
Yeah. Greg, last one from you comes from Diggy Man.
Diggy Man,
and he says sex and nudity is rarely used well in films. So why do we need it in games? He says implied things like what you see in God of War and Assassin's Creed 2 is fine, for him at least. But it seems that a fair number of games actually have that sort of content in it now, especially like Mass Effect.
What is implied in God of War? It's
I don't know.
Pretty direct what's happening there.
But you don't see it though. You see the nudity, but you don't see the nudity, but you don't see the action.
Have I been missing the games where other than Hot Coffee, where I'm getting it on full on? It seems like they're always implied. Resistance Retribution, she takes off her top and it's a pan away. And Mass Effect, the blue girl goes down and it's a pan away.
Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, Dragon Age, elf sex, pan away. I think it's in there because it's a part of life. It's an adult theme. I think that as games mature, they want to give you that full experience of trying to get wrapped up in that world, and sex is a part of the world or whatever. I think, obviously, stuff like Hot Coffee is a terrible implementation of it. It doesn't need to exist, you know what I mean? But they're using it to get some part of the story across or to hook you or make headline. There's a million reasons to use it, but I think Mass Effect's a great, a cinematic, awesome use of it, and it's perfect, and don't need to worry about it. Same with Resistance Retribution. I thought was a good one too. I can't speak to Dragon Age, but I know it's getting publicity about it. I read about it in New York Magazine on the way home and stuff. So, it's in there for a million different reasons, but I think it's just that people are trying to explore this medium and make it, art form, or at least make it a, full-bodied storytelling mechanism, and that's a part of stories.
Yep. Ryan, the last one for you and of the day. Kenny TNL says, what would we like to see added in future firmware updates to the PS3?
Oh, man.
LOL.
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. More avatars.
Oh, yeah. I always because, I don't even care anymore because I don't think it's ever going to happen, so I fully forget about avatars. Yeah, it would probably be better if I could have something to select more than the Snowflake that I've been using for, 2 years now, or Greg Sheep, which he's been using forever and a day. I don't know. I guess increased stability and speed is always good, but otherwise, I'm pretty much content. I couldn't see myself using the PS3 for anything else unless, of course, I would want them to follow through with the integrated Netflix stuff, which they have discussed before, and not having to use a disc unless that's not already happened, has it?
No.
That's
next year's time.
Yeah. So, I mean, follow through with that because, it would be cool to just be able to access Netflix without having to use a disc, a Blu-ray disc. And otherwise, it plays music, it plays the movies.
It does everything. It only does everything.
It only does everything. I don't really want anything else except get more games.
All right. Good topic of the week.
Yep. All right. So wrapping up the thing because Greg got a meeting here in 6 minutes. If you want to send us emails, Greg, you already mentioned, send it to beyond@ign.com. And actually, if you haven't visited the website recently, let's mention this. We forgot about this part. On Tuesday, we redesigned the entire website.
It's a brand new
logo.
day.
Greg, you're wearing an IGN.com shirt.
I'm wearing a retro shirt
your
now.
Logo
This is immediately
now
worth $20 more.
There it is. But yeah, the entire website was completely redone. I think it's cool. You can watch videos now.
It loads faster.
You can watch videos right now on the top story.
I was at that event that I was in New York for Sony or whatever, and I needed to check if we'd already done stuff, and it loaded way quicker on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And that was with a terrible connection in New York.
Yeah, seems to be better. So, yeah, go see the site if you haven't done that already. But yeah, send us emails at beyond@ign.com for questions. Follow us on Twitter at IGN.com. Everybody is on Facebook, including the IGN thing. If you just search for IGN Facebook, you'll find the official thing there. You can follow me on Twitter, Chris_Roper, which is where all these questions that we did for the topic of the week came from. Greg's on there, but you don't tweet.
Don't waste
whatever. Anyway, so that's pretty much the end of the show. Although, Ryan, you did mention that you had a PSN hit of the week. Is that in front of you?
Yeah, I can bring it up real quick. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
You know what's kind of crazy is this week you don't have to actually do the little hand motion for that. You can just say it because you sound like crap.
I know. It's crazy. I might still do. What if I want to do the hand motion just for tradition, though?
All right, let's try it. But anyway, give us the hit first.
Bring it up.
All right.
Bring it up in my email here.
Frogger returned.
Right.
Okay. Go.
Wait, am I doing it now?
Go.
Do it now. Right now.
All right, here we go. So I got this message from Adam on Facebook. He writes and he says, "Hi, Mr. Clements. I don't mean to pester you, but he wants to be hit of the week. I'm from Northern Ireland, but I'm currently living and working as an English language assistant in a high school just north of Paris. Very cultured.
Now we know what
I'm quite enjoying it, but I'm missing my family, friends, dog, and, of course, my PS3. My flight home is soon for the holidays, and it would be great if he could turn on his PS3 for the first time in a few months and have loads of friends waiting for him. So I thought this would be great. The guy's away from home. He wants some buddies to play with over the holidays. So let's make Adam the hit of the week. You can reach him at the PSN ID of Bob1808. That's Bob1808. Not entirely original, I guess, in terms of PSN IDs, but that's pretty much it. Greg, are you sure you didn't want to do the
you go ahead.
No, you try it.
PSN it confirmed.
Actually, that was kind of awesome.
That sounds better than usual.
That sounded really good. Let me make a note real quick here for PSN Hit of the Week. If you send us an email, somebody sent me a message via Facebook, I believe it was the other day, and said, "Can I be PSN Hit of the Week?" and was had a good reason. I don't remember what it was, but it was nice, and I would have said, "Okay, cool, I'll make you the Hit of the Week." Nowhere in the message had his PSN ID. So it is impossible for me to make you PSN Hit of the Week unless I know what the hell your ID is. So be sure that information is included.
Also,
Otherwise,
don't send me, Greg Miller, hit of the week. I don't care. I don't do this.
Yeah, don't send them to me either because this is not my podcast. So I feel bad.
I check my Facebooks. I check my Facebooks on a phone and I forget about it.
Pretty much just send them to Ryan. He picks them out nowadays. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of the thing. Rate us on iTunes if you haven't. I think I mentioned that already, but that's the end of the show. We have one more show for the year.
The big one.
Yeah, so the next week is our last full week. So next week we'll do the holiday special. Somebody wrote in on, I don't want to turn my phone back on to look for it, but somebody wrote in and said, for me, why don't I go over how wrong my predictions for this year were? If you remember, I predicted PS4 talk,
we had a
Gran
bet.
Turismo 5 in HD, and something else that I forget. The price dropped before GDC. But anyway, so next week we will go over our predictions for the beginning of this year, so we got to track all that stuff down. I think I was wrong on all three.
I made a point. I said, listeners, mark this day for one of the bets. You got to go check it out. Somebody marked it, I'm sure. You guys are crazy fans. Check it out. Email us at beyond@ign.
For when the predictions were.
Yeah, they'll know the episodes.
Anyway, so we'll
Roper.
Yeah.
We have some tournament updates I don't have available now, but look for that next week for some a little bit late tournament updates.
Ooh, from Beast. All right, well, we will see you guys next week for the last one of 2009, and then we will be in 2010, which is crazy.
No, it is.
The future.
2010. It is the future. I think
flying cars.
I think when we come back to work, I'll be flying here and teleporting and all that. Anyway, so maybe when we come back, we'll be now beaming this digitally straight into your brain, and we won't actually record a MP3 of the podcast anymore.
Just think about it.
You won't need to use iTunes in 2010. It'll just appear in your mind as we're doing it.
Cool.
So maybe, and we'll do holographic web streaming right into your living rooms, whether or not you want it there or not. Anyway, so we will see you guys next week. Greg.
Yeah.
You're going to do something with the song.
Yeah. In traditional Ryan Clements fashion, he's not here, but, he always forgets to bring the song, and I did too. So I'll have a song here in a second.
Good.
Beyond!
Yo, it's me, Greg Miller. Yes, look at this. Now I get to be the weird guy with a crazy voice at the end, just like they always say about Clements. I can see why he likes this. The podcast room, all to himself. He can say whatever he wants. No one will hear it but you, fair listener. Anyways, good talking to you. Let's see what we got here. So, we have an email here from one Jared Clark. Last week, ladies and gentlemen, we played a song off of Damon Hatfield's new album called Background Processes. Artist name simply Damon, Background Processes. And the one we played was Cubicle. Mr. Jared Clark liked the song so much, he set up some vocals and redid it here. So what we have is, I guess, a cover, maybe, of Damon Hatfield's instrumental Cubicle with vocals by Jared Clark. Again, if you want the real Damon Hatfield Background Processes album, you can get it off iTunes or, find, websites and stuff with musicians in them, and they're there somewhere. I'm not sure how that stuff works. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, here's Jared Clark singing over. I don't even know what do you call this one? It's a jam. It's a jam by instrumental part by Damon Hatfield, and man, this is a train wreck. How does Ryan do this? And Jared Clark on vocals.
is still contained, but hardly rise. Pictures belong in frames, now littered on the ground. I find another pawn to play with while I block my escape. And I have too much time and nowhere to sleep.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.